Hello ladies and gents, this is Andrew, or as you know me for the channel, Preacher's Games here, and I'm doing something a bit different. As you can see, I'm a real person. You can see my hands move. This is a real life. I'm alive. But what I want to talk about today is a type of form factor of computers I've always been a fan of. This really was ignited by the Steam Deck when I had pre-ordered a couple of years ago and received it last July, and I've used it for all that time and been a great fan, but the fact it uses Linux is a issue for me for some of the games I like to play. For example, Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield 2042, a lot of games that use anti-cheat of some kind and haven't been acknowledged by devs to work on Linux. So I needed something that I could use for those kind of games, and also maybe use as a replacement for my whole desktop. More of a minimalist kind of style. And I think I found it. The ROG Ally. For $700, I purchased this little device. And today I wanted to give you my thoughts, my experience with it for the past week and a half to 2 weeks, and whether or not I would recommend it. Now you can see this isn't really a professional camera. I'm using like a makeshift tripod and my iPhone as a camera. So it's not really a top-down view like you see on Retro Game Core or ETA Prime or other YouTube channels. I want this to be more personal. You know, I'm your buddy. We're just talking about gaming or PC or handhelds, and just want to talk about it as if I'm recommending it to you. It's like, oh dude, did you hear about that new device? It's pretty nice. It's pretty gnarly, as the kids say. They don't say that. It hasn't been used since like the 70s. But with all of that out of the way, let's begin. First, the control scheme. This is what you'll be using 99% of the time, unless you are going to be docking this thing and just using it as a normal computer, which I get it. Form factor wise, very, very nice. But if you're just going to use it only for desktop use and never handheld, a mini PC would be better. About the control scheme, I really like circular D-pads. I've used Xbox controllers for forever. I grew up with that. But I'm also used to traditional D-pads like you see on the PlayStation 4 or 5, other controllers throughout history. But I have to say, circular D-pads have always been my favorite, and I have to say this one is a good D-pad. If I'm playing a game that's really D-pad eccentric, less on the analog sticks but more D-pad, I've never had an issue with having the wrong input being detected. For example, it'll go straight up, not curved on the top left corner. And the button itself is really clicky, not really mushy as some people would say, and I really like that. So I would give that a A. If I'm going to put it in a tier list, I'll say very good. Very, very good. Now next, we have the analog sticks. The way these are fashioned are more like the Xbox controller, so in a diagonal kind of sense, compared to other controllers like the one on the Steam Deck, which are right on the same row, horizontal, or if you're playing on PlayStation 5, where they're at the bottom and, you know, right next to each other. This is easier in some sense, but I have more of a preference to the PlayStation or the Steam Deck kind of style of analog sticks, just setup wise. But these sticks are really good. I really love concave style analog sticks because I can put my fingers in, you know, get deep in the trenches, so to speak, and I don't have to worry about losing my grip if my hands get super sweaty for some reason. They're very clicky, just like the D-pad, which some people have had issues with as being more mushy than tactile or clicky. I have not had that issue. I feel like I'm some of the few people who has gotten a really good ROG Ally and not really having issues with it. I don't know about the micro SD card. I've not used it because 512 gigabytes is at the moment enough for me. I don't play too many games all at once. Analog sticks, I'd say, again, really good. Next, we'll talk about the buttons. This is for the control center, which would show your menu, which has many options such as your real-time frame rate monitor, your FPS limiting, what resolution you want to switch to, which is 720p or 1080p, what control mode you're going to do it, if you want to use it like a mouse and keyboard, desktop mode, or control mode, which is, using the controller. That's for your games. And then you have your different power modes, which is silent, which is 10 watts, performance mode, which is 15 watts, and then turbo, which is 25 if you're unplugged, or 30 watts if you're plugged in. These right here, Asus, they got it down right with their main control center button, and most importantly, this is for their armory crate, which is a little mini launcher to have. It'll show your games, you have your settings, so you can set up what kind of control paths you want to do, what kind of layout for a specific game you want to do. It does have some issues where any one of these, sometimes I'll click on either, for example, the control center button, and it's really slow on registering anything I change. For example, if I'm playing a game and instead of using performance mode, I want to use the turbo mode, I'll just press A. 99% of the time, it'll just do it instantly. Off to the horses, we're all good. But there's an issue sometimes where, like I said, it just won't register. I have to wait a minute or two, or I have to press the button again, close the control center, and then click it again to reopen it, and this time it'll actually register any inputs I put in. So that's an issue that I hope Asus fixes. Buttons, all good. Now we have our main buttons, A, B, Y, X. These, they're clicky. They're not the best, but compared to controllers like the Xbox or the PlayStation or even the Switch, it's really good. Not the best, but is serviceable, good, whatever you want to say. Some people complain about it being mushy, which, again, like I said, for everything else, not been the case. But there's also been an issue, a big issue, where people were saying the buttons would stick. For example, the X button would stick quite a lot, and they would have to do something to pry it back up. I luckily have not had that, but it is an issue people have been having. So hopefully Asus has fixed it with its actual, full-fledged, full release. Next, we have the left and right bumper buttons, which, like I said, with everything else, is really clicky, tactile. They have a little texture to it. I like the feel of it. And then we have the analog sticks. They're good, but I think, for example, the Xbox Series S and X controller analog sticks are better because it feels like there's more travel with it. The ROG Allies seem to have a lot less travel with it, so I'm just hitting the back of the controller really quickly. Doesn't have enough, let's say, resistance when you're playing a game like Forza or anything that you would have a vehicle you need to drive. So I'd say these are just okay. Just okay analog sticks. Next, we have the rest of our buttons, which top right here, we have the power button, which acts like a touch sensor. Also, that's how I log in usually. With volume down and up. We have the power port right here, which we can plug in our charger, which I have at this very moment. This is charging if I want to use it. Very good. And then right next to it, we have a port for the external GPU, which is very, very pricey, to say the least. I don't use it because if I want to use just a full desktop, I'll just purchase a full desktop. Headphone jack, just your traditional 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and it does the job. I would hope so. If it didn't, then we have an issue. And finally, we have the micro SD card slot, which I have not used yet because this baby comes with 512 gigabytes of storage, which for me personally is enough because I don't have too many games installed. I don't like doing that because I lose focus on what I want to play, and then I think to myself, oh man, I have so many options, which one do I want to play? And then I play no games, and it's a process that goes around so much, and it's never ending. So I only have a couple games. 2 games I play a lot. They're consistent games I always play, which is, for example, Battlefield 2042 or Rainbow Six Siege. They're just always installed because those are games I play with my buddies. But now we've talked about everything right here. What about the software, which I've already talked about some of the issues. For example, like I already said, the control center and Armory Crate being a bit buggy with inputs. If you use it, you have to restart. I've had some issues with Armory Crate where I'll launch it, like I said, it will register no inputs, and the only way to fix it would be either A, restart ROG Ally, or B, force close via Task Manager, relaunch it, and then it works, but it's not full screen anymore, it's more like full screen windowed. Oh, I forgot about something. I don't use them much. There's two buttons on the back. They're M1, M2. What they're used for is for alternate keybinds. For example, if you press the M1 button, which is on the back, and then you hit down on the D-pad, open up the Task Manager. And it's really nifty if you want to do that. Now back to what I was talking about before, software issues. It's growing pains. The Steam Deck had the same deal with some things not working 100% of the time. They wouldn't work most of the time, but they would have issues that would crop up every now and then. ROG Ally, no different. So just gotta give it time. But software-wise, it's good. It's serviceable for what you need to do and what you want to do if you are using a Windows handheld. Now, I want to touch on performance. This was touted to have 2 times the performance compared to the Steam Deck, but most of the time it's more like 50%, and that's if you're using turbo mode. You get you're using the full juices, baby. This plays games well, really well. For example, a game I've had issue with was Ghostwire Tokyo on the Steam Deck. I play it on ROG Ally. It plays, it works, it's functional. But I could also give that as a point to compatibility issues more than performance issues. But any game I want to play on it, that throw at the ROG Ally, it can play. Battlefield, Rainbow Six Siege, Ghostwire Tokyo, Yakuza, Like a Dragon, Death Stranding, anything I want to play, it can play. But you have to manage your expectations when using this. This is a portable handheld. It's not going to be PS5 or Xbox Series X. It's not going to be RTX 3090, 4090 performance. It's using an APU. It's using integrated graphics. There's limitation. This is using a 40 watt hour battery just like the Steam Deck. And when you're using turbo mode or higher stuff, battery's going to go down really quickly. For example, if I'm playing Death Stranding at performance mode, I can get 2 hours on this. 2 hours on the Ally. But if I'm playing the Steam Deck, I can get 3 hours because it has better lower wattage performance compared to this. This is its Achilles heel. It cannot do lower wattage well. It struggles really hard with that. It's more of a higher wattage because it's using a laptop APU. It's meant for those higher wattages. Well, the Steam Deck is just some kind of black magic Valve has with it. If I'm playing, again, I'll use Death Stranding as an example. If I'm playing on turbo mode, that 2 hours that I got for performance mode goes down to about an hour 10. You have to think, like I said, it's a smaller battery. It's not going to last as long. So keep your expectations in check when expecting to get like 6 hours, 7 hour battery life, like on the Switch or any other handheld on the market that isn't PC, so just a Switch. Battery life is a big issue with this. Hopefully, Asus can figure out how to, software-wise, help it a bit, like optimize the actual power usage of the chip itself, or AMD or someone. And maybe it might get better just like how Valve has, but only time will tell. So big issues, battery life and performance gains compared to previous generations of hardware. On the screen right here, we have a 120 Hz display, 1080p, really good colors. It blows the Steam Deck's screen out of the water. And the 120 Hz, I use it for some games, and in general use, it's hard to go back to 60 Hz once you use a higher refresh rate screen. For example, a game I like to play, which I know I get 120 FPS or anything like that at lower wattages or even higher wattages all the time, is Persona 3 Portable, which is just a port of a PSP game, so it's not really hard to do that. But how smooth and buttery it is, it's just hard hard for me to go back to 60 hertz without a good reason. So I'd say the screen, well worth it. It's really nice. The final thing I want to talk about, the speakers. Now the Steam Deck, for Valve's first time doing hardware like that has speakers, they did a pretty darn good job. Excellent speakers. It gets really loud, bassy, doesn't crap out at higher volume. The ROG Ally, somehow I think is even better. It gets quite a bit louder than the Steam Deck, in my opinion, and the Ally's audio is a lot more crisper and more complete. It might be due to the software it uses, which is like Dolby Atmos and what have you, but real big fan. Most of the time when I'm playing games, I'm not even using the headphone jack. I'm not using headphones or anything. Just playing bass off the speakers. Excellent time. Now finally, I want to discuss if I would recommend the ROG Ally or not, especially as price point. Now, it's kind of a mixed bag answer. If you're comparing to anything else like the i Neo, i Odin, 1X Player, GPD Win 4, it blows those devices out of the water, depending, because its price point, $700 flat out. It's not $800, it's not $900, it's not $1,000, not $1,200. So for what it is compared to those devices, good, and you get 512 gigabytes of storage. So if you compare it to the Steam Deck's higher end model, which is just more storage and has the anti-glare screen, 512 gigabytes, Steam Deck $650, ROG Ally $700, is a good upgrade for only $50 compared to the Steam Deck if you're thinking that point. But the Steam Deck can go as low as $400, and you can just add a micro SD card, and you have a terabyte, 2 terabyte of storage, and you can play all those games. You're good. So if I want to recommend it compared to other devices that aren't the Steam Deck, yeah, I would definitely recommend it. If you want to play games that use anti-cheat, you don't want to worry about Linux. Some people like Linux. I love Linux because it's really simple to use once you get used to it, just like any operating system. But if you want to play those games that rely on anti-cheat, you want to play Destiny 2, Rainbow Six Siege, what others are there I can think of? Battlefield 24-2, anything that uses anti-cheat that hasn't been looked at. If you want to play those kind of games, I have to recommend the ROG Ally. But if you play more single-player central games, or you're one of the more budget option, not budget, but you're looking for a best price to performance ratio, I would go with the Steam Deck, because $400 and you get a very competent machine. And even today, a year later after I received it, still a wonderful device. It has its quirks, but it has the full front power of Valve right behind it. They will continue to support, I believe, for years to come. Asus, they're known for making hardware. They have new hardware devices every year. So it's a little iffy on how long they'll support the Ally, but since this is first handheld, I would hope at least a few years, hopefully. So all in all, if you want to use Windows, you want to play multiplayer games that use anti-cheat and aren't too worried about the price, I'll get the Ally. If you want the upgrade performance compared to Steam Deck, go for it. If you care more about getting the best buck that you spend on devices, I guess the best price of performance, I would go with the Steam Deck. It uses Linux, but it can play almost any game you would ever want to play, except the ones that use anti-cheat and have not been looked at. That's his biggest Achilles heel. But if you want to play those games, go to the Steam Deck. So, yeah, I've loved using this device, and it's just been a very great experience for me, and I'm using this as my main desktop right now. Very, very compact. It works. I know this was a long video. Let's see how long. Oh, 27 minutes. I'm going to cut some of that up right there, but thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I didn't embarrass myself here. I hope you guys enjoyed this more open discussion style kind of video, more casual focused, hopefully, unless I just sound more business corpo. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video I make, which, I don't know, maybe I might look at my experience with the Steam Deck over the years. Who knows? So thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.